Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Colleen at MikeColleen.com. Okay, so I noticed something today. And not just today, but I'd say the last 4 or 5 days. And today I just really looked. And here, okay. So I noticed about 5 days ago. I thought, oh, maybe it's my eyes or maybe it's just weird. The sun is white. So we've had a super long rainy season. In fact, it just rained about 4 or 5 days. And this is the first, I think, 4 or 5 days in a row where we've had sun. So usually the first couple days my eyes are adjusting when there's a lot of rain, when the sun starts coming out. And it's confirmed. And here's the weird thing. I can actually look at the sun and it doesn't hurt my eyes at all. Now, at first I just thought, man, maybe it's my eyes or maybe it's like, but it's white. And the other thing is the intensity of the sun is different. Now, I like it. It energizes me. It really makes me feel good. So the thing about me is I am essentially a sun worshiper. I don't mean that spiritually. I just mean physically. I go to the beach all the time. I go to the park and lay out. I constantly go for bike rides, walks, runs. I love to be in the sun. Even if I just walk by the San Francisco Bay, you know, on the shore side. And the sun is really important to me. So I've kind of noticed it, I don't know how long now, but it really was this week. I'm like, no, it's not me. The sun is freaking white. I think what it was, I found a video about 2 weeks ago where this guy says one way you can heal your eyes and is look at the morning sun, like when it's first rising. I don't know if it's the first 30 minutes or hour. He didn't really stipulate, but when it first starts to rise, he said that's very good to actually look into the sun. I thought, really? And all these people swear by it, and I've Googled it. And so anyways, I'm not recommending it either way, but I personally started looking at the sun. I'd stare out there for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes so far. And I wouldn't like just stare and lock on, but I'd look at it for a couple of minutes, look away, look. And it didn't hurt my eyes at all. And so I think because of that, I started looking up when it was around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, I had to research this, and I actually did, and I found a couple of videos. Like one says, who remembers the yellow sun? So I just got done watching 2 videos on people saying, yeah, the sun used to be yellowish when it got up to around 10, 11, 12 noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock. Now it's white, like it is a bright white. Now, I'm not necessarily saying the actual color of the sun. If you go out in space, it looks that way. But I am saying when it goes through our atmosphere, it is white now. Now, here's the thing. I was really into fish tanks for a long time, and then I got into like the planted fish tank where we actually put potting soil at the bottom, put sand above that, and then small gravel above that to seal it. And then you have to get certain lights, and that's when I started learning about the colors. Like, yeah, I've always kind of known about different colors of light, but that's when I really started understanding like 5,000K, 6,500K, etc. Like the difference in from yellowish to oranges to bright white. So I'm not stipulating what or why it's changing. I'm just saying I noticed it's white. And there's a couple of science channels that saying actually if you go out into outer space, go towards the sun, it's actually a greenish white. It's just that when it goes through our atmosphere, it changes colors. But whatever, I don't really care about that. I will say this, it's kind of a coincidence where people are starting to wake up and they're starting to see the narcissist. Like, okay, here's something I read today about how to spot a narcissist. One thing is they can't really look you in the eye. So for those of you who've gone through narcissist abuse and you've kind of popped out of it, look at a narcissist now. They get real fidgety. They look down, they look left, they look right. They can't stand to really make eye contact unless they're intimidating you. But if you look them right back in the eye, they'll look down, they'll look around and fidget. So I had an experience about 4 or 5 days ago where someone was doing this, and they had kind of let it slip that they were a narcissist about 2 years ago, and I caught on to that. And I was just like, wow, it is so obvious now. Alright, so here's something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. I might have mentioned it, but this is gonna basically probably wrap up this video. Alright, so years ago, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago, I noticed that Neil Tyson deGrasse, or Neil deGrasse Tyson, however you say his name, there's something that really started standing out to me about what he would say. First of all, one thing I noticed about logical people, left brain. Now, this came from decades of working with men, helping them open up to the right brain, and also opening up to the right brain myself. I really began to notice that men that were left brain, they were very narrow and they only saw one piece of the picture. So they're very like looking in a microscope at a microscopic molecule or something like that, and that's all they could see. Okay, now women, you know what I'm talking about. They've got, like, they can see what's right in front of them, but they can't see left to right at the same time. They're not peripheral. They don't have that expanded awareness. So self-awareness and awareness tie in together. When you have self-awareness, you have a greater awareness around you. And most men, it's like they have blinders on. They got like a racehorse, a left and a right side. They can only see what's right in front of them, which leaves them to be quite vulnerable and very oblivious to reality. And that's one thing about the microscope. It literally denies and, what's the word I'm looking for? Delineates, there's another word for it. It gets rid of 99.7% of reality, because it's all about A/B testing. So they have to make a purified environment. In fact, the water that's used in it has to be 99.6% pure, or maybe it's 99.96%, but it has to be really, really pure. Not 100% pure, but almost perfect, right? Because they want to see, what is this bacteria, this one bacteria, what happens when it interacts with this one molecule of this other bacteria, or of this chemical, or of this medicine. They want to see what happens. And same thing with molecules and atoms. They want to clean everything and make it a pure environment so you can see how these two interact. But the problem is, in reality, there's not a single bacteria or a single molecule or a single electron or single anything that is in a pure environment with nothing else there. Even if it's an A/B test with this molecule and let's add this one thing. I mean, that's not reality. So over the years, I began to realize that people that are very logical, they are almost like literally 99.9.6 or 7% completely blocking out reality. They're only seeing a small sliver of reality. And the funny thing is, they're the ones that are always knocking people who are talking about intuition. Well, intuition is when you expand to more of your neurology. In fact, the best thing is to expand to 90 to 99.7% of your neurology, your nerves, your emotions, your feelings. Whereas logical people cut all that out and say, no, none of that is reality. We don't believe in it. We don't want to have nothing to do with that, which is cutting out reality. So essentially, very logical people, they disconnect from all their other systems. So if you do that in the computer wouldn't work properly, which is what it's like dealing with someone who's very left brain, very logical. It's like, they can't even function. They can't even carry a conversation because they don't have the processor ability to process multiple bits of information at the same time, which is what the right brain does. So I started noticing something. And I noticed this when I was probably about 21 years old. I remember I was in church and Pastor Rex was talking about how science is proving the Bible and proving Jesus and proving a lot of things. And then I went into these very scientific NLP trainings, but it was an open-minded group that was doing the training. Okay, they believed in energy healing and in spirit. And they were talking about the same thing, how, like physics is proving what energy healers have been doing for hundreds and thousands of years. So at a very young age, I started to notice that all these people that were extremely left brain or only left brain were always talking bad about religious people, about people that believed in God, and that, oh, that's not real, that's not reality. And then as the decades went on, and I was working with men, helping them open up to the right brain, because the right brain is your five senses: see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. Well, on a computer, that would be your video card, your audio card, your processor. So if you take those out of the computer, it's not going to work very well at all. And that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with very logical left brain people. They cannot connect the pieces. They don't have the ability. They've gotten so stuck in looking under a microscope at this tiny, finite little thing that's so small that you need a microscope to see it, that in their reality, they got stuck there thinking, well, this is reality. No, it's not. So we are living at a time where Bible prophecies are being proven. The river, and I just lost the name, the river in the Middle East that is drying up, that is a biblical prophecy. It's happening right now. There's a couple of other things that have been going on that are happening physically right now. It's like, okay, wait a minute. These prophecies are starting to, yeah, they're rapidly coming true. So you get these very logical, left-brain, narcissistic people. It's like, oh, you can't prove that. Like, what are you talking about? It's on the news. Like, what do you mean? Well, that wasn't written in the Bible. Yeah, it was. It was actually written in the Bible 2,000 years ago. I learned about it 40 years ago. Like, where? In the Bible. Have you ever read it? Well, no, I don't believe in it. So how do you know? They don't, because they're literally, physically and neurologically closed-minded. So here's the thing that began to really stand out to me. I think high school might have been the first time. I'm sure it was science class. And then in college science class, biology class. And then Pastor Rex would say, hey, there's a new one that they just discovered. Now, what I'm talking about is what scientists call universal laws. In fact, they say this, unchangeable universal laws. They'll say a universal law is something that is, and it won't change, and it can't change because it's a universal law. And yet, I remember as I was in church and Pastor Rex was saying, hey, another universal law just was found inaccurate, and they're now reeling, going, well, wait a minute, that means that this universal law is not true. And as he was saying that, it's like, oh, I remember my science teacher talking about universal laws that they had changed, and when they realized it wasn't real, it screwed up the whole system. So a thought came to me over and over again over the decades, and here's the thought is, well, that's blind faith. So as I began to work with men in my Cracked Female Code course, how to understand women, how to open up to your right brain, and how to ground yourself emotionally, be internal, these men would have these expansive awarenesses. They would be like, whoa, like there's a part in the course where their awareness expands way out in a wide circle all the way around, left, right, front, back. And they're like, what is, and it's very, very peaceful. And the clarity is amazing. So that's one of my personal, what's the word I'm looking for? It's my personal goal for my male clients to wake up to that level. Even if they only have that experience one time, when they really experience it for at least 5 or 10 minutes, or usually it'll last for about an hour or two. And I'm like, what is this? I go, yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? So like the mad right brain scientist that I am, I began to really notice that men, especially logical men, they were always like yelling or telling women, oh, you're not in reality. What they're really saying is like, look, I'm looking into this microscope and all I'm seeing is this tiny little molecule and this bacteria next to it. That's all I can see, so this is reality. And if you're not talking about this little tiny morsel of it's not even a piece of the puzzle, it's a molecule of a piece of the puzzle that should be connected to all the other pieces of the puzzle. So if you're not in this finite reality looking, it's like men, it's like they're looking down a tube of, as I said in the past, their pupils are small, they come together, and it's literally like they got blinders on. They can't see left or right, only what's right in front of them, but in a very narrow way. Which means they're disconnected from the majority of reality. They're only noticing a finite sliver of it. And so I began to realize it wasn't the men that were in reality, it was the women. Because the left brain is the dissociated logical brain. It's disconnected. It's dissociated or disassociated from reality. Whereas the right brain is the associated brain, and it's about the five senses: see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. So you are literally seeing the tree, you're smelling the tree, or you're smelling the flower, you're hearing the birds. Whereas when people in their logical brain, they're filtering all of that out. The other mind-blowing thing, because I grew up in the United States, I grew up in a Western world where men were saying, this is reality, that's not. And it turns out they were the ones that were disconnected from reality and literally were hiding from reality, including their emotions. And the further you go into your right brain, the more you are feeling everything. Not only your emotions, but also physical pain. See, the left brain escapes from emotional pain. It escapes from physical pain. So it's women that are actually experiencing more of the pain emotionally and physically. So another thing I notice is here's men telling other men or women, just deal with it, deal with reality, just deal with it. What they really mean is escape from your right brain, block that door, disconnect from your feelings, don't deal with it, go into your logical brain and just be logical. Because the more I began to learn about energy healing, healing emotions, is you have to deal with it, otherwise it will never go away. You have to literally feel the pain. You have to open up to your emotional pain in order for it to heal. Otherwise it won't heal, and it will keep coming up, and it will keep coming up, and it will keep coming up. Here's the really cool thing. I began to heal faster when, instead of clamping down, locking down, taking pain pills to numb the pain, to go into my left brain, I opened up to the pain and I allowed myself to feel it, which also allows it to relax. And when it relaxes, it's kind of a funny thing, because you're opening up to the pain, which allows it to relax. So when you relax the muscles, you relax it, the pain actually kind of goes down a little bit, and it allows the blood to flow through it, which allows it to heal faster. And this is also true with healing emotions. Another thing I began to notice at a young age, we're talking 6th, 7th, 8th grade, was how much power women had in the Western world. And yet it was supposed to be the other way around, but it really wasn't. More women had more social power than most men. Women could tell men what to do, get mad, get upset, or give them a stern look, and they would just obey. Even doctors, and it just blew my mind. And again, once I got involved with neurolinguistic programming, I didn't realize at the time what we were learning was social skills, social communication skills, but that's what it was all about. And as I got better and better at using these tools and my ability to express myself and read people and listening to understand, which, by the way, is an absolute technique you have to learn how to do. It's not, oh, I listen to understand, or no, because most people are thinking. If you're thinking when someone's talking, you are not listening at all. That is blocking communication. That's blocking listening. So that's something I teach in all my courses. So the emotional grounding course, it teaches you how to silence your mind so you can and open up to receive someone fully and completely, to receive their communication. So what happened was I suddenly started to have more influence and power over people without trying to have, not over people, but with people, without even trying. I was just trying to develop better social skills and communication skills. I wanted to get along with people, and all of a sudden people are like, yeah, they would like let me do things, they would help me with things, and also like, what's going on here? And as I got better and better, I started getting more of what I wanted out of life. This could be at a restaurant, it could be at a club, it could be at a new friend's house where I was introduced to people. So I began my discovery journey at a very young age, and I began to develop social skills, which means I now have social power. And it turns out the right brain is the social brain, and that's how you gain social power. So if I were to say to men, hey, it's time to wake up, take the course Crack the Female Code, it will change your life. So here I am listening to Neil Tyson deGrasse, and I've already gotten to the point where I'm realizing like this whole idea of like an unchangeable universal scientific law is just a load of shit. Excuse my language. And Neil Tyson deGrasse has said multiple times, boy, were we wrong on that one. It used to be a universal scientific law since 1947 or since 1960, whatever. Turns out we were wrong. So then one day, this was about 2 or 3 years ago, there's a YouTube video that Neil Tyson deGrasse did. And he was really, I don't think it was that long, I think it was about a year ago. He was really passionate. Go, look, if you believe this universal law to be true, and then you believe this to be true, that means you have to believe that this to be true also. And if all of these are true, then you must believe that this is true as well. Neil, do you know what we call that? We call that blind faith. And over the years, I began to realize that what men call reality is not reality at all. It's called blind faith. And the way logical people find their reality structure is if enough people say it, or if it was put into a book or a written, printed periodical by a person they've never met, by a scientist they've never studied, by a scientific study that they themselves have never even read, they never even looked, they just said, well, this scientist who wrote a book said this, well, then it must be true. It's called belief by consensus. Consensus of what? The majority of people. So it doesn't actually have to be true. We just have to agree upon these beliefs and therefore it's true. Whereas the right brain wants to find out from first-hand real-life experience, where you see it, where you hear it, where you feel it, where you have a literal experience of it, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, something like, okay, how many times on my YouTube channel have I predicted something that came true? I would say 3 or 4 times just in the last 4 years alone. The coronavirus, I called that. I posted it on my channel. I posted it on Facebook. It was about 30 to 40 days before anyone even talked about China or what was going on over there. And I said, hey, there's something coming. It's coming fast. It's going to hit the world and it's going to spread around the world really fast. And it's going to affect everyone's daily life. And boom, it happened. I predicted the plane that went disappearing the night before. I posted it on my Facebook. I predicted this year how it's going to be a golden light, how it's going to be the year of reflection. This is going to be the year of revealing. I made a YouTube video in January of this year. I also predicted the bridge collapsing. 2.5 weeks ago, I made a video about it. So that's what I mean. I don't mean like, oh, well, I'm just saying these things. Well, if they didn't come true, then there would be that. But I can actually talk to someone and then be like, oh, you're thinking this right now, and repeat word for word, like, how did you know that? So that's what I mean by physical, spiritual experiences. So what stimulated this video was this post on Facebook. So by James Webb Telescope Discovery, says, impossible. Galaxy discovered by James Webb surprises scientists. Its age and mass exceed the theoretical limits of the standard model of cosmology. Meaning, once again, the unchangeable universal law, turns out they were wrong. See, here's the deal. They would flunk you from college if you didn't answer that question saying, oh, this is true, this is universal law. And yet years later goes by, well, you got your degree because you agreed on these universal laws and that's how you passed. Turns out all these universal laws that you agreed to on the test, they were flat out wrong. What's worse is they used to kill people if they didn't agree with what the scientists said was universal laws, such as the earth is flat and the sun goes around the earth, that the universe revolves around the earth. So Mike, not me, this other guy says, when phenomena disobeys the laws of physics, the laws are wrong. And I'm agreeing, like, yep. So sarcastic, I'm going, but they are universal, unchangeable universal laws. How many times have they said this? Then 25 years later, oh, well, yeah, it turns out we were wrong once again. So here's what's happening. Scientists are beginning to prove themselves wrong again and again. And what's happening is the religious spiritual people are more and more beginning to be proven right again and again and again. And the people that are proving it are scientists. So take faith in your spirituality and your spiritual practices, your praying, your meditating, your deep breathing, whatever it is that you do to be spiritual, because it's starting to turn on, it's paying off, and that reality is beginning to shine brighter and brighter as we move along. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, a while back, I think it was last year, it was on YouTube where he was knocking religion, knocking the Bible, and he was talking about the book of Genesis. And this is what, now you have to notice how he phrases this. I forget, there's an NLP term for this. I can't think of what it is right now. I think it's a normalization. So he says, if you were to go back 2,000 years, and if you only read the book of Genesis, you would have a very limited understanding of what the universe is all about, and you would be wrong. Well, first of all, Neil doesn't know anything about the Bible. And secondly, I can also turn around and say, if you go back 2,000 years and listen to what these scientists said back then, well, then you would be wrong. Which would be true. Science has came a long, long way. Now, science is in its infancy when it compares to the Bible. It is, in other words, it's really, we're talking thousands of years behind the Bible, even in the year 2023. Science is trying to catch up, and they're catching up on some of the things, going, wow, it turns out that was true. Why would I listen to a dissociated, disconnected from reality, left brain person when it comes to anything? They can't even see the bigger picture. These people literally have blinders on the left side and the right side, literally like they're looking under a microscope, and that's how they view the world and the universe. It's like they're not seeing it. So Neil continued on with his misunderstandings of the Bible, and the one thing I would say to Neil is this. How many years did it take for you to graduate from high school? Oh, okay, so that's about 12 years. Okay, including kindergarten, so 13 years. And then I would say, well, how many years did it take for you to get your bachelor's degree in science? And he's like, well, 4 years. I go, and master's? He goes, well, another 2. And then your doctorate? He goes, well, about another 4 years or 6 years, etc. So we're looking at about 22 years of study, including math, science, physics, and all that stuff. And then I could turn around and say, what university did you get your what biblical university did you get your biblical doctorate degree from? And he'd be like, well, I didn't. I'm like, well, okay, then what biblical university did you get your master's degree in? He's like, well, I didn't. Okay, fine. Well, then what biblical university did you get your biblical bachelor's degree in? He's like, well, I didn't. I've never studied the Bible. And yet, Neil, you come across as the authority of something you know jack shit about. Now let's take the average Western-minded person and people of Eastern countries. How many years have we studied science? 12, because math is included in science. All of us in first grade learned 1 + 1 = 2. By the time I was in 4th grade, we started looking under microscopes. We started looking under bacteria. We would go to the local pond and we would get little vials of the water, and we'd bring it back and we would put it under the, I forget the 2 pieces of glass are called. And you put droplets of the water in there and you slide that underneath the microscope, and we were studying amoebas, one-celled animals, or one-celled, oh God, what are they called? Thank God we have Google. So, amoeba one says amoeba is a single-cell organism. Another one says an amoeba is a one-celled animal that moves by, etc. Another one says it's a one-cell organism that feeds on algae, and I can continue on. So I started studying science at a very, very young age. And then we started, I mean, probably 5th grade, we started talking about the stars and Saturn and Jupiter and the moon that goes around the earth and how fast it would go. And, you know, we started studying science at a very young age. So by the time the average American, the average Western person graduates from high school, he's got at least 8+ years of actual real life science. So the average person knows much more, and I mean much, much more, because you were required to take a science class every semester for at least, I would say, starting in 4th grade onwards. And so, you know, we've got, what is that, 10 years or 8 years of science under our belts. So my message, my purpose in sharing that is like, and yet I wouldn't go up to someone who has a doctorate degree who specializes in physics. He specializes in rocket science. I forget what he called it. I just forgot the name of it. But a specialized physics. I would not go up to him and say, oh, you're wrong about this. You are just blasphemy. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's ridiculous. Because he knows more than me. He's educated on the subject. He's specialized in it. So why do these people feel they have the right to attack the Bible or people that are spiritual who can actually physically do things in the real world on a spiritual level? Why do they sit there and discount that? I would say, why not open your mind? Why not learn from them? Why not go back to kindergarten and admit that you don't know anything about this world? See, because they're not aware of it, because they're not tuned into it, because they don't know anything about it, they just discount it like a narcissist does. Because the left brain is the either or brain. Well, it's either logic or it's emotions, and I don't want to deal with my emotions and feel them, so therefore I'm going to discount all that stuff. I'm going to spend all my energy and time, and I'm going to smash spirituality and emotions and intuition down to nothing, and I'm just going to stay literally in my little box, in the closed-minded box brain, and I'm not going to open up. And the funny thing is, these are the very people that would tell you to think outside of the box. It's like, do you really mean change my beliefs and accept your beliefs inside your box? Now, do I discount science? No, I study it. I study physics. Physics was a part of our course in Hawaii, and then also when we went down and did another 5-week training in Southern California, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like, physics is a huge part of NLP. It's a huge part of energy healing. The creator of pranic healing was a physicist with his doctorate degree, and he ran a nuclear facility. He didn't believe in energy healing. He didn't believe in spirituality. It was something that he saw one day. He's like, wait a minute. This means we can actually heal people using energy. And lo and behold, now what is his name? Master Choa Kok Sui. He wrote a book called Miracles Through Pranic Healing. Hey, this is Mike Colleen. Please click subscribe, click the like button, make a comment. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.